last time I told you we were going to be going live more from the dealer playbook Facebook page. And that's exactly what we intend to do. Yes, I know. Okay. I know it's Friday afternoon. I know that people are thinking about the weekend, but like, let's be honest, gang. The people that are worried about the weekend are not the people going to be hopping in here right now. And by the way, if you are hopping in here live, do me a favor and share this out. We're going to be talking about the great debate, the sales versus marketing debate. And none better to join me than my pal. Can I call you my resident sales expert?
I would be happy to accept that title.
All right, my resident sales expert.
And then
David
next time we
Bradley.
get together, I'll get on one knee. You take a sword each shoulder.
I'm telling you, man, we've broken bread. We've sung the theme song to All in the Family. And we randomly send each other Barney Fife impressions.
Of course.
Oh man. So hey, thanks for dropping your life to join me on this episode of the DPB.
Well, I tell you, the logic behind this is sort of what I was telling you, is that, for a sales professional, obscurity will always be your biggest problem. And if people don't know you, then they can't do business with you. So what I was doing today was making cold calls, but I figure, hey, I can hop on with somebody not cold, like you, rather warm or hot.
Are you calling me a hot body?
I am calling you a hot body, and I can, have a conversation with you that might hopefully deliver some value to some of your clients and your fans and your people, and that gets me out there, and everybody wins.
Love it, man. And you know what? It just makes so much more sense to me. I remember back in the day when, I don't know if have I ever told you I used to be an Amway rep?
Yes.
So back in the day, like that's what got me onto the concept of like, hey, I could knock on one door at a time or essentially talk to one person at a time. But I mean, those network marketing companies are really good about like, no, you got to have home meetings. You got to get 10, 12, 15 of your, closest friends, because that's just way easier. It's the same amount of effort, but you reach more people at the same time. So that's kind of hopefully what we're trying to have happen here. Of course, the mission of the DPB is to enrich and empower automotive professionals to think bigger, reach higher, live happier. And of course, we understand that if you leverage your career in the right way, it affects in a positive way all facets of your life. And that's really what we care about. We care about that deeply. Those that are joining us live, hey, drop a comment, say hi, click the like button, click the share button. Let's reach as many people as we possibly can. We'd love to be able to hear from you. And of course, if you have a sales related question, maybe you're a dealer manager, maybe you're at the leadership layer and you're going, man, how do I engage my team in sales? Or maybe you're a frontline sales professional and you're going, dude, I feel like I've tried everything. I got 3 cars last week. I need to bump it to 5. I need to bump it to 10. I need to break the national averages by the end of this month. Drop a question in the comment field because, dude, there's no better person on planet Earth that I could bring to you right now in this very moment in time than DB.
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah, I'm telling you. Hey, so I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
First of all, what's new? I feel like we haven't talked in ages.
Well, all kinds of stuff is new. If we are going to transition that and make it thematic into sales and the marketing conversation, then and the value of sales training, then the first thing I would tell you is that just recently at the end of June, I fulfilled a pretty much lifelong dream.
What was that?
And so I closed escrow on the house that I'd been renting for the last 6 years.
You've been talking about that for a while.
Yeah. And so the short story long is this. In 2007, I went from drinking about a bottle of Jack Daniels a day to nothing.
Wow.
And the primary and one of the multiple inspirations behind it, but a big one was that I had been following Grant since 2003. At that point, Grant Cardone, and I realized that he had set this example of somebody who had been in a very, very dark place, had overcome drugs and alcohol, and was now living a very, very sober, driven life. And I thought, if Grant can do that, so can I. And that was one of the things is when I had made my decision to finally get sober, that was one of the things that just kept me coming back to why I need to stay on this new path. And so one of the things that I started emulating that I learned from Grant was to write your goals and your dreams down every day. And I realized at that point that I really didn't have any that were tangible things that I had even put anything down on paper. And so I started thinking about, well, what are some things that I need to have happen in my life before I check out, before I leave planet Earth? One of those was living on the central coast of California in a rustic seafaring home on the water.
Yeah.
And so, we moved up here into the San Luis Obispo area, a little seaside village called Morro Bay. We made that portion of reality in 2013. And then I knew I wanted to own property here as a legacy piece to give to my family when I pass on. This particular house is going to be part of my wife and I's family forever.
Right.
So, but the deal is, like, I wrote that down every day. So the lesson to salespeople here is, number one, once you've made a decision to be a better human being and be a better contributor, whatever your goals and your dreams are, you got to start writing that stuff down every single day. And you got to write it down as if it's real. You got to write it down as if it's actually tangible. That starts the creation process. We've talked a lot about the mindset of that before. And so, started in 2007. I'm so happy and grateful to live in a rustic seafaring home on the water on the central coast of California. And I took that big goal, which was in a future setting, and I started applying that to my daily activities. So then I would say, in order to make that real, I will, and at this point I was selling cars, I'm going to get in front of 7 or 8 people a day. I'm going to go on 6 to 7 test drives. I'm going to make sure I write up 4 to 6 people, and I'm selling 2 cars today. And that was a decision I made. And so I tied my daily activity into a big, fat, juicy goal and dream. And that when I showed up to work every day, I'm not here just to see what's going to, it's not anything can happen Wednesday. It's, I'm looking for 2 deals today.
Right.
And so that's a huge career game changer for me. So that's what's new. We closed escrow. I'm a homeowner.
This is powerful stuff, but I want to ask you, because sometimes it can feel, too pie in the sky. When you first started the practice of, writing down these goals, like you say, I'm so happy and grateful to own a rustic seafaring home, all this kind of thing. Yeah. Did it feel superficial?
Totally.
Like what made that real? Like, how long did it take for doing this exercise to feel real to you?
Well, the good news is, for those of you that it doesn't matter. I spent the first probably 3 or 4 years going, you're so full of shit, dude. Like, it took part of me, there's always going to be a part of you that doubts you. And that's the exercise.
Right.
So what? Right. Just because and it's not even you, right? Because who you are, you're a divine creation. You're somebody, it doesn't matter where your religious beliefs come from, but you're stardust. And so you're capable of expending a massive amount of energy and outflow and doing this. And so you don't, just because some voice in the back of your head is trying to tell you that that's not real or whatever, most likely that's not even you talking. That's your Aunt Maureen, when you were 7 years old, and when she said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you said, I want to be an astronaut and I want to play second base for the Dodgers. And she says, well, you can't do both, honey.
Right.
So all of this programming that you got as a little kid, I want this, you're so selfish.
Right. What's funny about this, because I feel like I was just having this conversation not too long ago. Gosh, and I think I was having this conversation with my sister about just how many, when you really take a step back and realize how many fixed beliefs are holding you back from achieving whatever your definition of success might be.
Yeah.
It's actually astonishing. Like, this whole concept of you know, the little bungalow with the white picket fence and the dog and the, you know, like, and people get so caught up in that. Like, that's just one example, but I mean, like, fixed beliefs about, oh, you can't trust anybody. You know, hey, you got to always have your guard up,
Right.
or whatever it might be. Like, just how many of those things are actually holding so many people back from achieving whatever it is that they want in their lives. And then half the time, the people that have conditioned or I guess helped condition these fixed beliefs have never achieved anything in their lives.
Yeah. It took, 25 years of programming me to believe that I'm incapable, I'm not adequate, all of that stuff.
Right.
Like, I remember, this is deep, but so many, many moons ago, this would have been 1994. I watched, have you seen the movie Wyatt Earp? Not Tombstone, but Wyatt Earp with Kevin
Is that
Costner.
the one with Kevin Costner? Yeah. Yeah.
And
it's
so,
no Tombstone, by the way, if you ask me.
No, it's a different movie. It's a different, I mean,
Yeah.
And the way, why am I blanking on the guy's name? Who played Doc Holliday? What was that guy's name?
What's his buckets? Dennis Quaid.
So very different version of Doc Holliday, right?
Yeah.
But I remember in the movie, he told Wyatt Earp, he goes, for some people, this world ain't ever going to be right.
Right.
And the first thought, and this was a red flag for me. So the first thought that I had, that's me.
Like, this world's never going to be right for you?
For me, that's me. And it was right around that time. And when I started finally, that was 94. But so it took me 94 up to 2007 to be like, you know what, screw that.
Yeah.
And
so
what's interesting about that, if I just expand on it. So like, if you think about, I know Tony Robbins talks about it, Ed Mylett talks about it, but that retricular activating system, that when you make a statement or you make a decision about anything, your brain goes to work looking to validate it.
Right. It's because our brain, and is that because of a fixed belief? Like, is that like we've conditioned our brains to believe that they need to try and sort it all out?
I think that might be a biological drive. So for example, bears are dangerous.
Yeah.
So we're now on the lookout for bears. Don't eat that plant. Gives you the runs. Right. So I think it's tied in with our survival instinct, right? So like you see that, and then your brain is constantly looking for things that are dangerous, and now in this modern society, we just start assigning like the wrong things are dangerous.
Right. Fight or flight.
Yeah.
Okay. So you write your goals, and I mean, this is not something I'm guessing that has stopped since you achieved the thing for which you were writing goals. Like, what's the next thing? Like, what's the next thing you're manifesting? Like I love how you put that, putting into the creation process. What is it?
Well, just having there's the way I've always viewed it is you can have a dream, and a dream is like, that'd be cool, but it's just a dream, right? So, but when you start writing it down and you take this thought and you put it on paper, you're like literally starting the process of creation by taking your idea and putting it into some kind of physical reality. I think that starts that. And by writing it every single day and by putting it in present tense, it puts that retricular activating system thing to work at looking for reasons why it can happen versus why it can't. And that may take a while if you've got to unravel some programming. But once you hit it though, you literally have to move on to the next. You have to create a new one.
I mean, is this where fear of cold calling can stem from, or what?
Oh yeah.
How long did it take you? Are you still afraid to cold call? Like, what's the honest truth of it?
Yeah, every day.
And is there a point, like, do you think guys like Grant are afraid to cold call?
Yes. He's even said it.
Right. And so
it sucks. Right.
Is there a bigger principle though behind cold calling than just the action of cold calling? Like, because I think a lot of people get stuck in this concept of a rocking chair, lots of motion, no movement. Is cold calling a movement activity? Is it a motion activity that contributes to movement? Like, what's kind of the breakdown of why at this moment in time, just before we hopped on the call? And by the way, I'm looking at a monitor. For those watching live, I'm looking at a monitor where David is. I'm not ignoring. I'm not ignoring him.
You got a face for radio, kid. I can hardly look at you.
You got a face for radio, my boy. What's the, like, you know, because I mean, we talk a lot about the numbers game and, oh, yeah. What's the value in cold calling for you?
Twofold. Number one, outflow is senior to inflow.
Okay.
It's a universal law.
Right.
The more you put out, the more that comes back. The two don't necessarily have to be put together, like they work in synergy, but this outflow may trigger an inflow. Like you're going this way and then in comes in from over here. And the two may be totally separate. But the fact that you put the energy out, the energy comes back in. So that's the first thing about that. Outflow will always be senior to inflow. The second thing is that what else are you going to do?
Sure. Yeah, everybody's just sitting there waiting for anything to happen.
Yeah, and most people that depend on luck are usually unlucky.
Right.
So for me, I believe that, like, if it is to be, it's up to me. I'm the cause of what happens in my life. I'm not the effect of somebody else. So there's two ways of going about it. I can either wait for somebody to show up and go, hey, put me on Cardone University, or I can go out and start looking for people, and doing so in an expansive way, like cold calling, because number one, it takes you out of your comfort zone. It forces you to do the things you don't want to do in order to have the things you do want to have. Builds discipline, builds character, makes you fast. You think better. Like, there's all these benefits to that. And because I'm doing that, I believe the universe rewards me one way or the other.
Yeah. Law of reciprocity.
Yeah, totally. So the outflow being senior to inflow, and then not waiting for something, but creating something. Those are two very, very important things. And they tie back to some, early lessons I got when I first got into sales, or at least when I first started selling cars. The vice president of the Keys Automotive Group, his name's Howard Tannenbaum, really cool guy. He's buddies with Grant. But, I asked him pretty early on about, like, what does this salesperson need to do to be successful? And he's like, it's two things. Three, actually. Number one, you need to be with a customer. Number two, if you're not with someone, you should be looking for one. And number three, if you're not doing one of the first two, you should be training to get better at number three.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what I love about it is, it reminds me of, I don't actually know how many people know this, but in the early 2000s, I went to the Philippines. I lived there for 2 years. One of the cool things about living there, I mean, there were so many things, but one of the cool things was learning to speak the dialect fluently, the dialect of Visayan, or as they say it, Bisaya. And you made me think of this as you were just talking, because in that language, there are three different, I guess, ways to conjugate saying something. There's actor focus, which places emphasis on the individual taking the action. There's object focus, so now emphasis is taken from who did the action to what is being acted upon. And then the third one is location focus. So you're basically saying the same thing, but now emphasis on the location where it happened, not on the actor or the object. And I feel like just so much of life, so much of people not achieving the next level or achieving their definition of success, happiness, whatever it might be, more sales, simply boils down to the fact that they have allowed themselves to be conjugated as the object and not the actor. Like I am the object of which actions happen to, like circumstances happen to me, the economy, legislation, my market, there's too much competition. Everybody does, Facebook Live these days. Everybody, like, they give themselves all these excuses, making themselves the victim or the object being acted upon. And so what's interesting about these these conjugations in conjunction with what you're saying is that you're saying the exact same thing. You're just placing emphasis on a different thing.
Yeah.
Right.
You're touching on my morning affirmation.
Which is?
So I'm going to read it to you.
Okay.
I borrowed this from David Goggins. So credit being due where credit is due.
Right.
But it is this. I am realizing my potential. I have unshackled my mind. I have ditched my victim mentality forever. I own all aspects of my life completely, and I am in complete control of my arousal level. Don't go there. I mean, like anger, like that. I am building an unbreakable foundation. This is not about feeling better. This is
Right.
about being better and having a greater impact on the world. I do not stop when I am tired. I stop when I am done. I am my own hero. I am my own mentor. I read that every single morning.
That's deep, dude. And you know what I love about it is somebody at your level of sales, who's conscious about performance, is doing this every single day. I imagine even when you don't feel like it.
That's the most important time to do it.
You have a sign behind you, and I mean, this is famous. I got that same sign, in my office, and I'm sure thousands and thousands of people have the same sign. No negativity allowed here. How do you deal with the times okay, so here's the simple answer. How do you deal, question and answer. How do you deal with those times when you're discouraged or you don't want to do this stuff? And I know the answer is you just do it anyway. But a lot of people, that's where they get stuck. They're rolling into the dealership, they're rolling into their business. They know that they have a specific responsibility, but kind of fail to break through that mental barrier of, but I just don't want, dude, but John Wick 3 is freaking awesome. I'd rather go see that than sit here. I don't want to be here. Oh, look, elastic bands. And next thing you know, they moved on to saying, oh, cool. I didn't know we had a supply closet. And they just do anything they can to get in their own way because they can't break through this. But I don't want to do it. What does your journey look like? Because great. You don't want a cold caller. You're afraid of, the cold call, but you do it anyway. How did you build up the resilience to do it anyway?
Well, so a few things. Number one, loaf time is important and should be earned.
Explain. You said loaf time?
Loaf time. So the first thing you mentioned was I'd rather go see John Wick than X, Y, or Z.
Yeah.
And I say go see John Wick, first of all. I have never seen him, but if that's your deal, then make the time to do that, but earn the time to do that. So let's just say, hey, if I make 400 dials in a day, I'm going to treat myself to see John Wick. Gamify these things that would be considered loafing or lazy or whatever. Like you need downtime. Right? Like muscle, if you go to the gym and you work out, you didn't build muscle at the gym. You actually tore muscle down. You have to rest in order to build the muscle. So work hard and earn your loaf time or earn your downtime. The other thing is that you need to have, and just a quick disclaimer, I screw this part up, I'm about to share with you, almost daily.
How dare you human?
Yeah, but
gosh.
So we've got a lot of signs here. But this sticky note right over here, I keep it close to the phone for this very reason, and I keep it right below the no negativity sign for this very reason. It's 5 things. Catch it, crumple it, toss it, replace it, write it down. So what that means is the negative thought pops up. I'm going to catch it.
Yep.
I'm going to crumple it, toss it because it doesn't serve me, replace it, and then write it down. And we already talked about why writing it down is important.
You are in a constant state of either maintaining control or taking it back so it's yours.
Yes.
What do you do for downtime?
Well, does exercise, do we count that?
I think so. Yeah, why not?
So I work out
Like a
voraciously.
beast. Kettlebells and all that.
Kettlebells. I run. And like, there's a really cool set of stairs down by the beach over here that 90 steps, and it weaves, right. So I'll sprint up that, and then at the top I'll do some kind of upper body. I'll do burpees or push-ups or sit-ups or something, and I'll just see how many rounds of that I can do in 20 minutes or whatever. And but even that though, like, I tend to tie to a bigger purpose. So like on September 11th, I will do 22 rounds on that, just because it adds up to the total number of stairs at the world, I think, to the 70th floor that the first responders had to hike up to get to.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
for me, just right. So you want to put, like, I always try and attach stuff to bigger purposes. But so for me, downtime is that definitely exercise. It's a very important piece. I try and get 10, maybe 15 minutes of pleasure reading before I go to sleep.
Define pleasure reading.
Well, I just finished reading 11/22/63.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Great.
yeah.
A lot of fun, right?
Sure.
And now I'm starting Catch Me If You Can.
Okay. Cool. So like what in the business world we would call bubble gum, but like serves a purpose for you because it's light.
Yeah, it's like, it's a great way to just sort of clear the head,
Yeah, yeah.
something that's stimulating to the imagination, and then gives my subconscious some, data to work on while we're sleeping. Um, and then also, I try and give myself 1 or 2 hours max on the weekends. Well, I'm a big UFC fan, so right, I enjoy watching UFC fights.
Wasn't there just a fight?
Yeah.
And was it good?
It
I
was
feel
good.
like I was supposed to watch it and I didn't.
No, it was Khabib and Dustin Poirier.
Oh yeah, yeah. There you go.
Yeah, that was a hell of a fight.
Okay, so now let's dig in. People are going, and I don't know if they're going, but we're just going to assume from our experience doing all this kind of jazz that they're going. When are you going to talk about sales versus marketing?
Okay, cool. Let's talk about that.
So let's talk about that, because I see you as a hybrid, right? Like you are a hunter, but you are also a farmer.
Yeah.
Like,
Aren't we all?
and I mean, that's my perception anyways. And I don't think a lot of people realize that there's a big difference between the two of those things in a silo. Like if farmers are siloed and hunters are siloed, well then hunters would be your traditional salesperson going out to find existing, opportunity, existing food, tracking down the meat, so to speak. And then, the farmer being the marketer who tills the soil, plants the seed, nourishes it, waits for it to grow, and then harvests, right? Which is interesting too, because that is a whole lot of outbound effort to get something that we've now classified as an inbound opportunity. It's like, how is it inbound? You cultivated it. But especially like at the dealership level, and I know you work in you work in other verticals. First of all, is there this still a challenge where marketing teams and sales teams are too siloed?
So there was it's a couple of years ago, I think, but Grant was on it was either it wasn't a podcast, but it was like it was a group chat kind of thing that we broadcasted live with him and a bunch of other dealers, and they got into that about how much should a salesperson take control of their own. Should they do their marketing? How much presence should the salesperson have on social media as a representative of the company, and all of that stuff? And I think back about, when I was at the dealer level, this whole thing had just gotten started. Like, YouTube was barely a thing, right? And so, like, how do you leverage that? And we had a MySpace page for the dealership I was working at.
So, and you were there just
Knock, knock.
you were just dropping crazy beats and
Yeah, right. Well, that was when MySpace was like the Facebook, right? So
right. Yeah.
I post inventory up there, and I try and get followers, and like you do all that stuff. And so there's that, and then I had a YouTube page, and you would do whatever you could to like try and I want people asking for me
Right.
when you come in. So that was the most important thing, and that relates back to what we talked about at the very beginning. So whether it's sales or marketing, obscurity is your biggest problem. If people do not know you, then they can't flow you.
Sure. Yeah, it makes sense. Like,
Right?
how's anybody going to accept something they don't know exists?
Correct. And so then the second thing though is that there's two different kinds of obscurity. There's the obscurity where they don't know you at all. And then in my opinion, the worst kind is where they knew you, but then they forgot about your ass because you didn't follow up.
Which is worse, in my opinion.
Yeah, totally. Right. So,
Yeah.
so for sales and marketing, those two things are synergistic. Like, how do I make sure people know who I am? And then number one, and then number two, I need to be present so that when they're ready, I'm the guy.
Yeah. Yeah. So you got to be in a constant state of preparation.
Yes. And outflow.
And outflow. Man, you know what kills me is when I go and I visit businesses and I'm sitting there and the leadership layer is gone, man, you know what? We just need to generate more leads. We got to invest more. There's this company that's promising to lasso the sun, the moon, and the stars for us because they're going to get us more leads. And what do you think, Michael? And what have you heard of this company that's promising they're the shiny object? We're just like a bunch of fish, like, ooh, shiny object, right? And I'm not kidding you, dude. 95% of the time, I'll turn around and I will look out the window from that leader's office to see
guys arm wrestling, smoking cigarettes, and
doing nothing.
Yeah.
They don't dial. They don't, there's half of them don't even have a freaking phone on their desk anymore. Or they're just staring at their computer. And so I mosey on out of that leader's office and go and just kind of casually walk past just so they don't, get all weirded out or whatever. And they're doing nothing. They got a spreadsheet open. They just stare at it. They got a pile of keys on their desk because, they just have to organize all of those. And P.S., just freaking put them back when you're done. Like, why are you creating all of this useless work? And the thing that comes to my mind is, yeah, you know what? Certainly you could buy into another program that's promising to do something crazy for you. But is it what you should do? And there is a huge chasm between everything you could do and the things that you should do.
Yeah.
And what I love about talking with you is you're so loaded with should do's that you don't have any time for the could do's. You ain't sitting there going, oh man. And I remember this actually from the early days. Grant would be like, dude, you got to be so busy. You don't have time to organize your office. Like it was that kind of thing. Like the guy that's organizing the office is losing opportunities.
White space in the calendar is the devil.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. And like, who cares what your desk looks like and all that kind of stuff. And that's what I kind of attribute to this. Like, of course, if you are doing the things you should do, you will not have time to do the things you could do, the potential things. Those are just time sucks. And then, what kills me beyond that is how many people go, dude, I don't have time. I don't have the time. I'm too busy. What is your take on time poverty? This idea that we're all too busy.
Priority.
What's that?
No time equals no priority.
So your day starts with a daily affirmation, goals, manifesting goals. What else do you do to keep yourself sharp? Like this whole concept of sales versus marketing. Like what are you doing to keep yourself sharp?
So my morning routine looks like this right now. I wake up earlier than I want. not in a massive way, but a little bit, like
Sure.
15 to 20 minutes before the appropriate time. So if I feel
Mhm.
like I should get up at 5:30, I'm getting up at 5, because I
Okay.
like to start my day doing something I don't want to do.
Yeah.
It's just discipline and habit and muscle. I go over that affirmation. I go over my goals. I open an actual book with pages and everything, and I read about 20 minutes. Whatever I get done in the 20 minutes, because sometimes I'm going to read something juicy and I'm going to go back over it. I'm going to underline or highlight. I may even have a journal handy to where I can write what that thing that I just read, if it stimulates something for me, right?
Sure.
But I want to spend some real time in a book that is personal development based. Then I'm logging into Cardone on Demand and I'm doing 20 to 40 minutes inside that program.
Hmm. And I imagine, just to kind of pause there for a second, I imagine you've viewed every module in that system, what, 8,000 times?
I don't know. We've delivered 45 million lessons on it. I've been with Grant since 2011. So have I seen it all? Probably. But has, like the stuff I watched today, I'd seen it. Not only had I seen it before, but I used to own it before I worked with Grant, right? And I used to listen to it in the car. But what's most important to me is that the Dave today that listened to that content and watched that video is a completely different dude than 2011 Dave, than 2000, definitely than 2007 Dave. Okay. Right. And then 2003 Dave is brand new in the car business, bright eyed, bushy tailed, doesn't know nothing, just excited to have an opportunity to make six figures. Right. So
Yeah.
like those are multiple different versions of me, and I'm in a constant state of change. We all are. And even physically speaking, you get a brand new body. Every cell in your body dies and regenerates every 7 years. So it's like the whole idea of I've seen it already.
Yeah, because if you're in a constant state of change, then what you viewed and listened to today, you picked up something totally different.
Yeah, and just on one of Grant's most simplest of concepts, which is also ironically one of the most complicated, is the number one rule of selling is always, always, always agree. And being in a place of agreement with somebody, I am constantly evolving in that side of things. There's all sorts of different things that you can do, and so like, um, just the idea of not wanting to not making somebody wrong.
Right.
If your belief is different than theirs, the urge to make them wrong is almost overpowering. But is that really going to get you a better relationship with that person so they can see your point of view? I mean, you want to see how bad that concept is about making people wrong? Just go hang out on Twitter. Nobody, right? Nobody in the world has ever had their political views changed because of a Twitter post or right? Or a Facebook discussion. It's just about people being present and engaging and getting to state their point of view and have a voice.
Yeah.
It doesn't, and that's all that it is, and that's all that it's worth. It's an opportunity for you to go, I'm right, you're wrong. That's it.
Yeah. You know what's interesting about that too? I basically pay zero attention to Twitter, and my business somehow just keeps growing.
Yeah.
Okay, so 45 minutes of GCU.
20 to 40. Yeah. 20 to
20
40.
40.
Yeah.
And then where do you go from there?
I try and get a workout in. Right now I'm not, because I'm doing longer runs and longer weight training sessions. So that are taxing. So, but before I would just hit the garage. I do like 10 minutes of jumping jacks, 10 minutes of burpees, and 2 minutes of sit-ups, and I'm out. Or I'll go run around the neighborhood real fast. But so if you're not doing some kind of exercise, I totally recommend doing exercise in the morning in a fasted state before you shower up or before you leave for work. And it needs to be short, 20 minutes max. Set a timer on it. Get in there, smoke yourself, get out, shower up. I do intermittent fasting, so I'm not going to consume food until at least 2:00 in the afternoon. But
Yeah.
me, and at that point, I call this a buddy of mine. We do a little bit of role play. And if he's not available to talk, then I'm going to review my script and then I get after it.
And you just go relentlessly until it's done.
Well, yeah, I mean, I have like a daily checklist of things I try and get done. So like I write down, and again, it's about affirmation. So I'm so happy and grateful for still there, right? My 2 deals today that I got from doing 4 demos that came from setting 6 real appointments because of 6 hours plus of talk time and 400 plus dials.
Wow.
I write that down every day, and then I put little marks. So I've got when I accomplish each one of these things, and I don't hit these targets every day. But it doesn't mean I don't go for it.
Sure. When did you realize that you needed to be a hybrid? Like, because I mean, you set up websites, you've got lead gen funnels, you do things that are traditionally on the marketing department side, but you are also a relentless hunter. So when did you make the connection that, hey, these things can actually work together in a really powerful way?
Well, the first time, I mean, it took a while for me to like really dial that in, but like the first time that I realized that I can't just like I have to build my business was when I was in the car business, and in 2007, 8 or 2008, 2009, when it just all went kapooey, like everything crumbled before you, and you got people coming. I was selling General Motors at the time. You got people coming in trying to get literally 50% off of the Dolly because we're going bankrupt.
Yeah.
And so that was me going into the service department and literally spooning or spiffing the service writers for, every RO that came in today so I could call them up and then digging into orphan owners and doing all that stuff. And just
right.
I think there's no way I'm going to be reliant on leads that are coming in, because at that point we were getting hand raisers. And the hand raisers, which could have been cool, but most likely it meant that somebody went and put a box at a Dodger game that said register to win a terrain. And then they would send us a form that said, hey, Billy wants to buy a terrain. And you call up Billy and he'd be like, did I win? And you're like, no, but and they didn't even tell you that that's what it was. If I knew the shot, I could have shot better. I didn't even know. I just thought he wanted pricing information on a terrain. That's what they told me. So It was one of those things. I'm like, okay, I can't depend on this for income and for revenue. I got to get creative. And so that led me to looking at what are other people doing on the internet to generate their own traffic, to generate their own business, which led me to YouTube. And that's when I found Elise. I'm like, hey, look what she's doing. I can do that. So then like that stuff starts happening, and then shortly after I went to work with Grant, it's like my business card says sales and marketing manager. So I'm like, all right, I got the sales part down pretty good. I think I have some awareness on what that's all about. But what's this thing about marketing? So, at that point, it was just in that office in Beverly Hills with me and Jared. So we start studying marketing guys, we both fell in love with Frank Kern. I didn't know you yet, but like you just start looking at like what are other people doing, right? Frank's got the best subject lines in the world.
Yeah, Frank has headlines and copy dialed in to a godly proportion.
Yeah.
And I mean, like they
called the Kern. And whenever I get an email from him that's juicy, I just move it over there in case I need some inspiration.
Yeah, and what gets interesting too is when you start dissecting their subject lines and their copy. Like it was very, very clear when Frank and Grant started working together more closely because Grant's emails got so much better. Right?
I got the Kern.
He got kerned. He was kernverted. Oh. So in kind of winding this down, you're seeing power in the unification of sales and marketing, not not by siloing them out. Everything kind of, man, do I say, I don't want to say, no, I'm not. I was going to say the word we all say too often, starts with an H, rhymes with holistic. I hate saying that because everybody, it's overused, but
Put on a flannel and hug a tree if you're going to use that word around me.
well, I like rowing stuff. And so, for me, there isn't really a debate. That's why I loved when I was like, is it too clickbaity? And you're like, maybe that's what you need to write. Is this too clickbaity? and that really is, for me, kind of the reality of it, is that they ought to be unified in a much better way. And like dealerships, especially where everything is so siloed.
Yeah.
It's like when I look at you and I think of you, I don't think sales and marketing. I think revenue generation. And maybe it's more important for dealerships to stop thinking sales and marketing, and they need to start thinking in terms of the revenue team. These people are on the revenue team. It is a team that moves together, like freaking SEAL Team 6. You got a gunner, you got a guy that watches the back, you got munition specialist, you got like all these different specialties, but they're all working together on a single team to generate revenue, not to do the marketing, which we all know is vendor accountability, right? And wasting your time doing incentive slider updates on a website and all that kind of crap. Right. And then there's the sales team that should be dialing for dollars that isn't doing anything. If they could just work together in a much more unified way. From your vantage point, for a dealership that's like, revenue team, right? What are some things you would suggest they look at in order to make that happen? Because you've got the experience as a car sales professional and also on this side of things. So if David Bradley started a dealership with a revenue team, what would that look like?
Well, number one, obviously I'm coming from a place of ridiculously high levels of bias here.
Yeah, sure.
But if I could oversee implementation of a product like Cardone on Demand into a dealership, a few things would be very important for me. Number one, every employee in my dealership is on that program to some degree.
Okay.
I want my back office on that program. I want my parts and service department on it, not at the same level of intensity as my sales department, but I want everybody on there to some degree so that everybody has a fundamental understanding of this dealership is about that magic word, revenue. And everybody there is participating to some degree in the generation of revenue. So it is my fiduciary responsibility as an owner to make sure that everybody over there not only understands it, but can do it. So maybe it might make sense to not just have a spiff that people have some awareness of with no education behind it, that, hey, you bring us a lead, we're going to pay a couple $100.
Right.
It should be not only that, but we're going to teach you, we're going to train you, and then we're going to hold you accountable for helping the dealership generate revenue. Right. Without it, none of us have a job. Yeah. I don't have a business as an owner, right? My management team, they don't get to take care of their families. In fact, anybody below me doesn't get to take care of their family. So the most important piece of that is to make sure that everybody's got access to a program that teaches people literally how to generate revenue.
Yeah. What I love about it too is when it comes to things like turnover, onboarding, retention, like any of these sorts of things, why wouldn't you want to work in an environment that is invested in your personal growth? Like that idea is just shocking to me.
Right. Well, it's an interesting, we could probably do a whole other thing on the psychology of that, but it's like you from a dealer or a general manager is a lot like a coach. And I remember my first general manager, and he was very much a Vince Lombardi kind of a guy. Sure. Everybody freaking hated that guy. He was tyrannical. but he insisted that you did better. And he had a very regimented way of running his dealership. And a lot of people couldn't hack it and couldn't take it. So they either quit or they complained or they made a thing out of it. And frankly, the dude was kind of a jerk.
Mm.
Right.
So he wasn't
later, I look back and I missed him because I worked with other people that I'm like, man, we need that structure.
Was he a jerk because of their perception of maybe underperforming, or was he a jerk because he didn't practice what he preached?
A little bit of both. You know, I think he was regimented. I think he was diligent in his own mind, but he took it a little too far, I guess.
Yeah. We got Tony Tito Washington saying,
I want to know what that is about. I'm curious.
I do too. Tony, hit us up in the comments with a with a Love your input. Tony is an extremely talented, extremely committed automotive professional. Right. So I am genuinely intrigued about the So accountability. Now, sometimes, do you find this like accountability is kind of perceived or executed in the wrong way? You know, like we always take it as like everybody needs a football coach when maybe not everybody on the team needs a football coach.
But even a football coach knows who to push and who to let him go.
Yeah. So, okay. So one of the powers of a football coach is that they understand not just the group or the collective needs of their team, but they also understand the individual needs of the team.
Yeah. So like what I'm doing, what's up, Joe? Joe knows what I'm talking about. So if what I'm suggesting is you need to hold every salesperson in your organization, in fact, every employee in your organization accountable for self-improvement. And it needs to be consistent and it needs to be done consistently. You have to have that. Now, each individual person is going to be at a different level. You're going to have a 30, 40 car guy versus a 15 car guy or even an 8 car guy doing just the average of the minimum. But everybody in between, and every single one of them is capable of more, of doing a little bit better, of improving to some degree, whether that's can I get from 30 to 35 or can I stay at 30, but let's pick up another 500 gross per copy. So when I'm doing, so that there needs to be some minimum standard of expectation that applies to everybody. So just because this is a 30 car guy should not necessarily mean he's off the hook from training per se. If I want my salespeople doing 2 videos a day, then that needs to apply to everybody because we want consistency across the board.
Right. Where currently in organizations, there's a high double standard.
Right. Where so is producing, so therefore he's excluded. But that would be like telling Michael Jordan, don't show up to practice.
Yeah.
And he's going to be the first dude at practice and the last to leave.
Yeah. Despite the fact that practice is part of his contract.
Right. And who is the dude that just got blown out for not practicing?
Don Johnson? I have no idea.
Yeah, anyway. So, and then the Patriots picked him up right away.
Yeah.
So there's a couple lessons. My buddy Steve Spray said this is the prime example of the importance of having a full pipeline.
Yeah. Keep the hopper full.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah. Okay, so group needs, individual needs. No double standards. Because that kills me too, man. Like the double standards of you are the top performer, therefore you're excluded from all of these things. However, we need to let go of somebody. So we are going to let go of the individual who would have laid down on train tracks for me, but maybe lacked a little bit of the skill set we were hoping. Right?
Yep.
So there's a solution to that, and it's to be prepared by training.
Yeah. Grant says push people to be great. Push them to be as great as you possibly can, right? Or as they can. Push people in from that coaching standpoint, you know? So it's like, and if they're not going to rise up, one of two, well, if you push them hard enough, they're either going to rise up or they're going to rise out. And then when you look at a program like Cardone On Demand, it empowers and it makes it very easy for a dealer to do that, track it, help them. And then if we can't continue the relationship with that particular employee and I got to bring somebody else new in, then are there some things that I can do within that program in and of itself to make sure that the next person I hire isn't going to be that I've got somebody that is going to go all in, right? Like I call it the top producer clone factory. We've got some stuff inside the program now that if you leverage it correctly, you can take your 2 or 3 top guys and clone them basically as you're going through hiring new people.
So making the training part of the onboarding process then.
Huge piece.
You can even use the training. I mean, like back in the day, we used to do this with the training and we would make it a part of our hiring process.
Yep.
Not just onboarding, but like, I can't remember what we used to do, but I think it was on your recommendation. We used to say, hey, yeah, absolutely. We set you up with a temporary login to our training platform. Would you go and check out these 6 videos before we hop on our call?
Yeah, I tell that to everybody that I work with, and it's one of my favorite parts of the program. So like if I was interviewing you, I'd say, hey, Michael, it's a great interview. I'd like to meet with you again. Let's say it's Friday. Let's meet up on, say, Monday. Here is a username and password to our sales training website. It's called Cardone University. I'd like you to log in, go into the new hire training center, bang out 10 videos. You pick the 10, doesn't really matter, but take some notes and be prepared to have a conversation with me for our next meeting. And that's your homework, and I'm going to go hit a report before that next meeting. And I'm going to look at a couple of different things. I'm like, hey, did Michael even log in?
Yeah.
Right. Did he do the 10 I asked him to? Did he go totally like balls to the wall and bang out 60 videos?
It's funny too, because you can see all of this, right? Like there's that accountability mechanism. And I just love it when people didn't do it. And then they'd be like, so when are we going to meet? And then you call them on it and you're like, bro, we asked you to do this. The time's lapsed. You never did it. And then just like every excuse. Oh man, I thought that went to my spam. I didn't know that. It's like, see ya.
Right. Let's just say it did go to spam or you never got the email with your username and password. Would it make sense? Or at least you would demonstrate your proactivity as an applicant by saying, hey, I never got that email.
Yeah. You said you were going to send me an email. You never sent it. Yeah. Powerful stuff.
Character, hunger, drive, willingness to learn, ability to take instruction, all that with just one username and password in a quick assignment.
Dude, love it. Hey, thanks so much for joining me. You didn't have to, but you did. I even, when we jumped on before we went live, I was like, you could have said no. And you were just like, I know I could have. Like, just so matter of fact. But before we hop off here, because it's been a fun conversation, how can those that watched and will watch get in touch with you?
A couple different ways. Probably the fastest, most easiest, and effective would just hit me up on my cell phone. You can call or text it. It's 818-427-5188. You can email me, david@grantcardone.com. And those are the 2 fastest ways. The other thing that I'll just throw out there, if we're just going to, if I can just drop a hook. Right now, Uncle G is doing a fundraiser for the victims of Hurricane Dorian, and we're trying to raise $1 million for the people in the Bahamas. And if you're a GoFundMe, let's see, it was 10x help Bahamas.com.
All right, let's go look at this real quick. Hold on. Let's go. We're gonna check it out. Give me a second. Share. All right, hold on. I'm still learning. We're gonna pop that up here, and we're gonna go 10x Bahamas.
I think it's 10x help Bahamas.
10x help Bahamas.com.
Yep.
All right, give me a sec. Let's see what we got going on here. So I'm gonna do this, and then I'm gonna see what do I do? How do I just share this?
And it should redirect you to our GoFundMe page.
I got a whole slew of like controls here. All right, so yeah, Hurricane Dorian relief for the Bahamas.
Yep, perfect.
Goal is to raise $1 million.
Yeah. So what I'll do, if you're a car dealer and you're watching this, And if we're able to consummate a deal on Cardone on demand between now and let's say next Friday, 500 out of my own pocket towards this in the name of the dealership.
Nice. That's huge. Love it, man. Thank you so much. Go check that out. 10x helpbahamas.com. And then you heard the man. He's left his contact information. That's real information. That's not the stuff he's handing out at the bar. That's real contact information. Hit him up. I know a couple of people have been like, hey, so-and-so needs sales training. He said Mark Jacobs. I don't know if that's a joke, like Mark Jacobs, the designer.
Yeah, I think, well, that's with a C.
So it's an actual, so definitely hit up David. He was so gracious enough to join me. It's Friday afternoon. Guys, I hope you have an incredible weekend. And of course, keep the playbook open and dominate. New episodes coming every Thursday, 4 a.m. Pacific time. That way, everybody, all my gang on the East Coast has time to listen during their morning commute or jog or lawn mow or soon driveway snow shoveling. And then, of course, every Monday, a Power Bomb episode, which is really just a nugget that gets you going for the remainder of the week. Until next time, guys, keep the playbook open and dominate. There. Now this is our awkward. See, because if I hit stop now, then it'll cut off, right? Because there's a lag. So we get to let everybody just enjoy us talking now.
But was that Price is Right? Is that what you were?
That was the price. Oh, hey, good for you.
I should name that tune. If that is that's bring it.
Yeah, as long as you don't get the what's the